answers spoken by young and old, rich and poor, black, white, Americans who sent a message to the world that we have never been just a collection of individuals or a collection of red states and blue states. We are and always will be the United States of America.
2008, Grant Park, Chicago, the night that Barack Obama was elected president. Now, 8 years later, President Obama is going home. We joined him on Air Force One for his last trip to Chicago as president, to say farewell to the nation. The soundtrack for our day, music from the president's own Spotify lists.
Alabama, Arkansas, I do love my mom and pop, not the way that I do love you.
Tonight you're going to talk to the American people. Right. Is this a hard one? Do you know what you're going to say?
I know what I'm going to say. I got to make sure I get through it properly. You know, when you reflect back on 8 years, for all the highs and the lows, the one thing that is a constant is the incredible dedication of the people who got you there and who helped you do your job. Everybody from the staff at the White House to the folks who make sure this airplane flies to supporters who would write me notes, when things weren't going well, to the people who would say that the work we did made a difference. So I think that sense of gratitude that I feel for those folks, I just hope I'm able to express that.
You have been a lot of places on this airplane,
yeah.
Around over 400 missions,
right.
We're told. What's it like to be on here? This is the final flight, or the final trip?
Well, this is the final trip. We get our last flight after the inauguration, but this will be my final trip as president. It's a nice plane, but what it also does is it brings back a lot of memories about trips that were consequential.
This speech, you're giving, a lot of presidents have given their farewell speech, but often from Washington. Why come back to Chicago?
We always have reminded ourselves every day that we were in the White House that we weren't here just for the pomp and the circumstances. We were doing the people's business, and my own career in public service started in Chicago, and that's where I learned the power of ordinary people coming together and bringing about changes that would make a difference in their lives. Thank you. We'll see you on the ground.
Chicago, the city he loves, that clearly loves him back. In the freezing cold, people lined up before dawn for free tickets to his last speech.
This is a historic moment. It's literally our last chance to see President Barack Obama speak.
We're going to miss Obama. Chicago loves you. Obama! Line up! Ready to go!
But before his public appearance, a much more private one, he brought us to his favorite Chicago diner, Valois.
My first apartment was a block away at 51st in Blackstone, so I used to come here for breakfast. These guys didn't pay me a lot of attention at the time.
Now he's a big deal.
Good to see you. How you doing? You doing good?
How you doing, Marshall?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
So I should ask for the presidential discount when I come back?
Well, I don't know about that. They can't afford discounts, but the food here is great. The people are wonderful, and this is a real gathering place for folks all around the Hyde Park and all around the South Side. So, all the years that I was organizing, you got good food, and it was cheap. You fill yourself up, and I didn't cook a lot back then.
You cook now?
Oh, I don't cook a lot now either. There was like a point in between where I was doing a little cooking. Testing 1, 2, 3. You guys got sound?
We sat down to talk not about the news of the day, but about his reflections on the last 8 years.
Let's talk about the journey. It did begin in Chicago. I'm only going to do this once in the interview, I promise. But I want to show you something. You have, of course, seen it. It was Grant Park.
Yeah.
The victory night. I want you to watch this.
The road ahead will be long. Our climb will be steep. We may not get there in 1 year or even in 1 term. But America, I have never been more hopeful than I am tonight that we will get there. I promise you, we as a people will get there.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Did you?
Yes, we did.
You did?
Look, if you had told me at the beginning of my presidency, the day after, in fact, me winning the presidency, that 8 years later the economy would be stabilized, we would have cut unemployment in half from its peak, that the stock market would have recovered, that incomes last year went up for everybody, of every age group, every racial group, every demographic. If you told me that we had provided 20 million people health insurance that didn't have it before, that we had seen this explosion in clean energy and cut down our carbon emissions, that high school graduation rates were up at an all-time high, I would have said, all right, we did okay.
His vision of hope was cemented by the years he spent pounding the pavement and talking with people here in the Windy City.
I'm curious now, 8 years later, did you draw on that community organizer in your presidency?
All the time. So I was working with churches. Most of the folks were a lot older than me at the time. And I had to win over their trust. And 2 things I learned. One was that you have to develop a relationship and you have to listen to people in order to understand what it is that motivates them and concerns them. And the second thing is that once you listen to people's stories, it turns out that people who on the surface seem different actually have common hopes, common dreams, common aspirations, and if you can get them to see each other in that way, then potentially you can get some things done.
Kept you grounded as president to some extent?
Always.
And that was just the beginning of our extraordinary conversation, covering 8 years that made history, but didn't always make the progress he promised.
Can you remember a moment in which it just struck you that they're going to fight me at every turn?
Well, that happened early.
An evening of hard questions.
Didn't the recovery, uneven as it was, plant the seeds for the election of Donald Trump?
And stirring reflections.
You do get emotional at times.
I do.
All in all, this was a pretty shameful day for Washington.
My biggest disappointment as president.
I think any of us African Americans in prominent roles feel this struggle. Am I being black enough? Am I too black? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Then it's time for True Confessions.
My staff will tell you I can curse like a sailor behind closed doors sometimes.
Sounds like you'd like a do-over.
Well, no.
Okay.
First of all, my wife would leave me.